I need to do just a minor setup here real quick. I was talking to them in the back. They said, okay, we're going to do this pumpkin thing sometime, right? I was like, yeah, it's my sermon. Like, for your sermon? Yes. It's not going to be a Gallagher situation. Somebody's asking me if they needed raincoats up here. No, nothing like that. But it may get a little messy, but it'll be for me. That's why this is going to be here. I would hate to get something on this table or on the floor. And it all makes sense, trust me, as we go through this. But how many of y'all seen a pumpkin before? Yeah. Okay, I thought so. We'll talk about this thing in just a minute, but I wanted to get it out here so you can see. I literally do have a pumpkin. And enough, because I'm going to cut this bad boy open in just a minute. The reason for this, I want to explain this. This is for the adults. Now, this is actually for all of us. This is a lesson. It's geared toward children, but I want you to notice, because you can actually use this for your children or for other people, or maybe just for your own benefit. I want to have some discussion first, because first of all, this is in no way saying that science is evil. There's so many people that accuse Christians of being anti-science. That's absolutely ridiculous. All science is learning, and I'm 100% for learning. But I do know that there's some evil ideas that are being taught under the guise of science. And so this is why we're approaching it from this way. And you might think, oh, we shouldn't be talking about scientific things in church. Science is learning. So if we're learning, whether it's about physical things or spiritual things or whatever, all the truth that we learn is from God. He's the author of it. So we're learning a little bit more about God even when we learn about biology. We're going to learn a little bit about biology today. But it's from the Bible. But I promise you, if your child reads, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and there's any doubt in their mind that that's true, the rest of the Bible is going to be in question. And there is a huge effort, and it's been going on. We're not unaware of it. It's been going on for decades to try to convince children that God doesn't exist. And not just children, but lots of other people as well. They definitely are under attack, though, because of this. They're the front lines of this. So much for that. The front lines of this is cartoons, fast food. Go to get a Happy Meal, and you're going to have toys, or you're going to have stuff on the box that's talking about usually dinosaurs. And dinosaurs is a great way to introduce the idea of macroevolution. Macroevolution is the idea of evolution that means we started from an amoeba and we became a man. We just evolved over millions of years. And that is what this is about. Evolution in and of itself means that things change. Things do change. But I was having a discussion with a science professor one time, because my son was going through school and he was getting the answers wrong according to the science tests, but they were the correct answers according to the Bible. So I had a discussion with a science teacher, and we're trying to work out a way. He was reasonable, but he didn't believe in God. But he respected the fact that our son did. And so we worked it out to where if he would write down on a piece of paper the answer, and he would put it in quotation marks, that meant for the teacher, I know this is what you say it should be. I don't agree with it, but this is what you want. And he was perfectly fine with that. He said, at least he'll know the answer. He thought at least he would know the right answer, and maybe he could believe it later. But that was a way that we worked it out. But in this discussion, he said, evolution is true. I said, okay, explain what you mean by that. He said, there's a large a large minority of people that are born with webbed feet. That's an advancement. That is something that we are changing. I said, so you think that we're going to be more and more aquatic later on? He said, yeah, it's a possibility. Maybe this is something that's going to take hold. In another million years, we'll be more like swimmers. I said, okay, would they still be humans? He said, yeah. I said, so they actually haven't changed from one thing to another. They've just changed the way they look. I agree with that. Humans today stand a lot taller than they did 300 years ago. Why? We've changed. And we'll continue to change. But we're no more or less human than they were 300 years ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 6,000 years ago. We're still human beings. They have this in coloring books. They have it in movies. They have it in toys. They have so many places. And before they can even speak, they're getting inundated with ideas. about evolution. And it usually starts with things like dinosaurs, and it's usually very innocent sounding. Oh, dinosaurs have been around for millions of years before humans existed. That statement in itself sounds so innocent to us, but if you read Genesis chapter 1, which we're going to see, it completely violates what the scriptures say. And we think, well, it's not that big a deal. It is when it starts all adding up. But God left plenty of evidence that he exists. I read another article just recently. It just amazes me. There was some scientists who said we're not creationists, but we want to suppose that what if someone created the universe? What if someone created it? Then maybe they would, in that first original explosion, there was light. Maybe they embedded a message in that light. So they studied for years that light, supposedly from the Big Bang, and they tried to see if there was some kind of a message that was hidden in there. And they said, oh, lo and behold, we didn't find anything. I'm like, do you not understand that the light itself was the message? The very fact that we exist is the message. God left plenty of evidence. Psalm 19 and verse 1 says the heavens declare the glory of God. So even the stars in the sky tell us that God exists. He's real. He made it all. Okay, so this is what we see. We also have this great question. So let's suppose, children, you see this watch up here? Let's suppose that you found this watch in the desert, and I give you a question, okay? Here's the test. Do you think that watch grew on a tree, or that the wind made it, or a monkey made it, or a human made it? Which one do you think would be the right answer? And I think, without even asking them to speak up, I know the answer to that one, right? A human made it. That's the only possible explanation. The wind can't make it. It can't just by chance. All the parts just somehow kind of come together and form working parts that just happen to keep time, that in exactly a 24-hour day. It's just not possible. And this is what we call the teleological evidence. There's a design out there, and so we have to have a designer. This is the way the human body works. You guys, when you run, all of your body parts work together to make you run. And God designed that so that we can be that way. Wow, we skipped a lot. Another one is that the earth is just not that old. And there are, of course, people that tell you, and you'll hear this in school, you hear this all kinds of places. And by the way, I'm not anti-teacher. My mother was a teacher. I know there's some good ones out there, but there are also some that believe in this idea of evolution, and they will teach it. And so we need to be ready for that and not put our head in the sand and say, oh, no, it can't happen with me. But the earth is not as old as people say it is. Now, they say that dinosaurs lived millions of years before humans came on the scene. They lived and died, and then they died because of some kind of a comet or something like that. Something changed. Everything then died from them, and then all of a sudden we have little mammals that lived through it, and because of the mammals that were alive, now we have humans that are living too, because over millions of years we've changed into those different things. And so this is what they say. But I want y'all to read something with me in Genesis chapter 1, 24 through 26, which is a little bit what was already read, right? I want you to see what God said. Let the earth bring forth a living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So God made all the creeping things, all the things that were on the land, everything that moved on land. It was all created at the same time. And in fact, he says in the next verse, let us make man in our image. So he made man at the same time that he made these other things. And he's looking at this. Tells them to be fruitful and multiply and all these kinds of things. So he created them in the image of God in verse 27. And then I want you to notice in verse 31, it says, God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So this was day 6. How many of y'all been coming to the Pew Packers? Y'all know these are the days that we've talked about, right? So we have day 1, God made light when there was none. Day 2, God made clouds and sky so blue. Day 3, God made grass and flowers and trees. I always forget that one. Day 4, sun and moon and stars galore. Day 5, God made birds and fish alive. And the 6th day, animals and man were made that day. And this is how we're all were made on the same time at the same days, in the same 24-hour period. That's what God said. And so we have to look at the evidence and see what is this about? Did dinosaurs actually live at the same time as humans? God said they did. Now, if that's the case, then we should see some kind of evidence for that, and there is plenty of evidence for that. Here are some ideas, though, but I want you to think about if humans never saw a dinosaur, would they actually be able to tell you what a dinosaur looked like? Can any of y'all raise your hand if you can tell me what a lion looks like? Yeah, because you've seen one, right? Can y'all tell me what a snipe looks like? You don't even know what it is, do you? A snipe is not even, it's an imaginary creature. Have you ever been on a snipe hunt? I have. I never saw one. I can't tell you what it is, what it looks like. I can't tell you anything about it because I've never seen one. I can't even imagine what it would be like. So if someone came up to you and said, and you've never seen a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and they said, hey, tell me what a Tyrannosaurus Rex looks like, you might draw a ball. You have no idea what it is. So this is what we have to look at. And I want you to notice some things. Here's some pictures that y'all are going to like. Here's some dinosaur pictures. Here's, if I can get it to work, it either skips a lot. There's one. That looks kind of scary. That's a model. What does that look like? It's like a dragon, right? Somebody says, well, that's a dragon. That doesn't count. How is it that they could draw pictures of dragons that just happen to look like dinosaurs? They just coincidental? Sure, just coincidence that they happen to look like dinosaurs that they'd never seen before. Here are some other... Why is it doing this? Here's some stone carvings these were found were carved out at about 1500 AD. No, 1500 years ago, about 500 to 700 AD. That looks like a man riding a triceratops. Okay, so maybe it's mythological. Maybe a man never rode a triceratops, although they probably would have been the easy ones to ride. But how did they know what those things looked like if no one had ever seen them? I'm not saying that there were triceratops around 1,500 years ago. They did die off, but somebody somewhere saw something and passed on what it looked like. That's the only explanation we have. Either that or they were, maybe they had ESP or something. Maybe they could look in the future and say, in 1,500 years, there's going to be a dinosaur that's uncovered and it's going to look like this. Either way, that's not a good option, is it? But look at this one. What does it look like they're fighting? Dinosaurs. I would say that's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't know. The arms are a little bit long. And somebody might say, no, Tyrannosaurus Rex is a lot bigger than that. I'm sure it was. But let me ask you a question. If you're going to fight a Tyrannosaurus Rex, are you going to fight the big ones or the little ones? You're going to fight the little ones, right? And this is exactly what we see going on. That's when you're going to attack them. Does that mean that it happened, that they saw it 1,500 years ago? I'm not saying that. But somebody saw it somewhere, or they couldn't have drawn it. Because there's no way they could have guessed what those things looked like if they didn't even know they existed. Here are some other examples. These are just kind of clay figures that people have made. These were actually found in burial plots in South America and in the Andes Mountains. And these are all depicting different things there were a lot of things that were buried. They buried a lot of different things. They picked out the ones that looked like dinosaurs and said, these are so I have those. There's lots of them around. Look at that. Look at this one. The one on the bottom I really like. He's wrestling it or something. That's like a sport, right? There are hundreds and hundreds, there's thousands of references to these kinds of things. Marco Polo even mentioned some things that he saw that were kind of like, what in the world are we talking about? Even the Bible talks about a beast called Leviathan and Behemoth, and you can read about it in the book of Job. And these were huge, huge animals, monstrous animals. They didn't call them dinosaurs because we've only called them dinosaurs for 200 years. Before that, they called them Leviathans and Behemoths and huge beasts and great things. So look at that one. That's just a giraffe, right? I don't think that's a giraffe. So anyway, that's what we have in history. Here actually this was made famous by this is a temple that was made famous by Laura Croft. the game. And actually one of her movies. This temple is actually in it. I had a picture of the whole temple. I forgot to put it in there, but it's there. And this is actually on that temple. This has been around for a long, long time. I think 1,000 years or so. I want you to notice what this picture is pointing at. You see there, it's pointing to that. I'll get a closer look at the thing on the top, and that looks like a dinosaur. And some people said, no, that looks like they told me it looks like an aardvark. Because aardvarks have those little spiny things on the top, right? It's a type of dinosaur. It looks just like one, right? How did they know what they looked like if no one had ever seen one before? You know, it was only a couple hundred years ago that we actually knew what dinosaurs looked like. We didn't even know they existed until somebody uncovered a bone somewhere and said, wow, this is a really big bone. It's like this long for their leg. What kind of animal is that? And they started putting them together and like, this is a huge beast. So we're going to call them something. We're going to call them dinosaurs. We didn't even know they existed until we found the bones. But somebody knew they existed because they drew them. They made pottery of them. This is actually one from out in western United States, I think Arizona. What do you think that looks like? Something, right? I don't think it's a human. It has a really long tail. It's on two legs, and that it just screams something about dinosaurs. So, and this is just a little picking that I have. There is tons of these things. Those little stones I actually saw some of them. It's amazing how they carved them, and there's tens of thousands of them. There's not just a few. And some people have said, well, these were hoaxes because somebody got in there and carved them so they could sell them, and there's only like 5 or 6. No, they've uncovered tens of thousands of these, and they're not all dinosaurs. Some of them are pornography, but they have all kinds of different things on them, but they have a lot of them that had dinosaurs. How do they know what they look like? Because humans at some point lived and interacted with them. And some people have said, well, dinosaurs were too strong. They're too powerful. They're too dangerous. They'd kill everybody. Okay, how many of y'all have ever been around a Bengal tiger? Not me. You know, those things can kill everybody around. In fact, there was one, I don't think it wasn't a tiger, it was a lion. There was one of something called Out of the Darkness or something like that, a movie made a while back about this lion that went on a killing spree. He just got a taste for flesh, for humans, and he killed lots and lots of humans. They eventually killed him. So what happens would be if you have a large dinosaur that decides they want to eat people, eventually the people get tired of it and either move away or they surround it and kill it. That's why you have pictures of them attacking different ones. So dinosaurs and humans did exist together, and maybe they even helped do some things. They could have actually accommodated, or I think they probably could have tamed some of them. I want to read a few verses, and we're going to get pretty soon into to that pumpkin, because I know you were curious about it. Genesis chapter 1, 11 and 12 says, God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit trees that yield fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. Here's what God said. We're going to create trees that yield fruit according to its kind. So that means that if you have an apple tree, it's going to yield fruit that's going to be an apple, and that apple will create other apple trees, right? So that's where apples come from. Then we look in verse 20 and 22. It says, God created the sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind, and God saw that it was good. So he told them to multiply. So what happens when you have animals with the sea creatures? They create of their own kind. They produce other sea creatures, that fish, whatever it is, 24 and 25, which we already read. The same thing. So all the animals of the field and all the animals on earth produce after their own kind. So here's something for you children. Watch this. I think y'all know how to answer this one. But think about this with me, if I can get it to do it one at a time, maybe. Here we have a daddy chimpanzee, right? So this is maybe at a zoo. And you take a daddy chimpanzee and you put it with a mommy chimpanzee, which is the next. What do you get if you have a daddy chimpanzee and a mommy chimpanzee? Do you get a dog? No. If you have a mommy chimpanzee and a baby and a daddy chimpanzee, you get a family. You get another chimpanzee? Yeah, very good. This is what it equals. Look, it always has that. You know, it doesn't matter how many times a daddy chimpanzee and a mommy chimpanzee, how many children they have, they're always going to be those. Can a mommy chimpanzee ever have a crocodile? It doesn't even make sense, does it? It can't change. It can't be something different. So whatever it's born, have y'all ever seen have y'all ever, were y'all chimpanzees at one point in your life? No? Some of you act like chimpanzees, I know that. But if you are a chimpanzee and you're going through your life, can those things change to something else in their lives, where they're living? Can you change into something else? You're going to be a human being all your life, aren't you? And then when you have children, if you grow up and you have children, are your children going to be chimpanzees? They're going to be children, right? They're going to be humans, just like we are. That will never change. The reason we know it will never change is because God said, like begets like. Whatever kind it is, it's going to beget, that's their children. They'll be the same kind. And that's why some species go extinct, because we don't have enough babies being made, right? So you can't make babies of chimpanzees from anything else. You can't make humans from anything else either. But evolution tells us, they'll try to tell you in school one day, that a human being was born to some kind of a ape-like creature. It was like an ape, but they gave birth one day and a human came out instead of an ape. That can't be true. In fact, science teaches that can't be true. It's a law of biology, and the Bible teaches that can't be true. But still, they have a lot of people that teach this. All right, so now let's get into the pumpkin. How many of you want to see me cut open this pumpkin? Why do you think they have? Have you ever seen it inside of a pumpkin before? What's in there? Pumpkin guts. It's pretty nasty, isn't it? And it smells, and that's why I have the cloth down. Hold on. There's not a whole lot in here, though. Have you noticed that with a pumpkin? There's just not a whole lot of stuff in there except the seeds, and there's not even much of that. I'm going to get this eventually. I need a chainsaw. I should have practiced this. By the way, I stole this sermon from my father-in-law a long time ago. And I got this, and I got my wife from that family. Oh, yeah. Anybody want a pumpkin seed? No, you don't want one, trust me. Oh, it's gross. Yeah. So I'm going to reach my hand in here. Hold on. You know, I was looking up, and Isaiah walked around. He did a sermon illustration. I think he did one where he built up a city with embattlements, and he actually played war. This was his sermon. And he also walked around naked for 30 days one time. And I was like, that ain't going to happen. But that did give me the authorization to say I can be a little different sometimes. That's what this is. It's a lesson based on visualization. Now, what am I going to pull out when I put my hand in here? Guts and seeds, right? What do the seeds do? What do the seeds do? Anybody know? What do the seeds do? You plant a seed, and what comes from a pumpkin seed when you plant it in the ground? Pumpkins. That's right. You get pumpkins, and they grow, and they get really big. Can you get any watermelons from this thing? No, you can't get watermelon. You only get pumpkins. So when you reach in there and you grab it, then what is that? How did I get a banana and a pumpkin? Does that even make sense? And it feels weird. Hold on. What? A pickle? There's 2 pickles in here. Did y'all put something in my stuff? It grew in there, evidently. Look, okay, that's weird. Well, I need to get some more seeds out. Oh, there's something else in here. What is that? That's a bell pepper from a pumpkin. It feels strange. I'm going to see if there's something inside it too. And what? There's an egg in the pumpkin? And it rattles. Hold on. What's going to be in here when I open this up? Chocolate chips? Yeah, that's chocolate. Wow. That just can't happen, can it? Do you believe this happened? No. Why? It can't happen. You know, some scientists will try to tell you that you can open up a pumpkin and get something else out of it. They'll try to tell you that you can plant a pumpkin seed and a banana can grow. It can't do that, right? And this is an illustration. I'm going to show you how I did this. You can even see the tape. After the tape, I put some super glue on this. I opened it up with an X-Acto knife and I stuffed the pickles in there and put it back in there. Did it all last night and wrapped it up so it wouldn't get dark. There's the pickles, and this was more of a challenge. So I had to cut the top of it off and then split it open, stuff the egg in there, and then I super glued it back. And then I put it all in the pumpkin and made a fool of myself showing what was in the pumpkin. Why? This is so important. Oh, that was hard. I had to do several eggs that way. I had to cut really, really carefully. I had to cut a square in the bottom and so it wouldn't break. And then I put it to the side, and then I put the eggs, I blew all the egg out, put a little hole in the back, and blew it out and let it dry. And then I put the chips in there, and then I put a piece of tape over the end of it and stuck it back on. You know, I had to do all that kind of stuff. It's like a magic trick. It's not real. It can't happen unless somebody makes it happen. So the point is, there's nothing that can happen to these things unless God has already made them happen. So a pumpkin can never give you a banana unless somebody plays with it and does something to it. But somebody has to change it in order for it to become a banana or chocolate chips or something like that. That's the way it works. And that's the way God has set up all of these things with creation. He has it all set up so that whenever you plant a pumpkin, you always, always, always get a pumpkin. If you get anything, it's going to be a pumpkin. And it'll always be a pumpkin. It'll never be anything different. Okay? So that's the pumpkin sermon. And that's one, I do this everywhere. This is like the 4th or 5th time I've done this. I hope you remember this. When you go to school and somebody says, there was a man there were 2 apes who had a baby, and it was a human. You can go, no, I know that's not true. It can't happen because God said that apes only give birth to apes. Chimpanzees only have babies that are chimpanzees. Pumpkins only have pumpkins when they have their seed. Well, all right, that's the lesson, and I appreciate you going along with me on that. But I do want you to understand that this is serious business. Even though we've kind of played around, the children, they are inundated with this kind of stuff, and they need to see some things here and there as much as we can. Little lessons. I want to encourage you to be proactive also. Say something to your children, your grandchildren. Tell them about God. Tell them about the creation story. Don't be afraid that they're going to get in trouble at school or anything like that. You know, you can work it out with the teachers. If they are evolutionists, they don't believe in God, you can still have a discussion with them. Most of them are reasonable. Most of them will talk to you, so please do that. Use your words with them. Children, also, thank you for being up here. We're going to have the thing at 5:45 if y'all can come back. We're going to do that too. And we're going to have an invitation. So if any of you need to respond to the gospel, I know it wasn't really for you, but if you need to respond to the invitation of Jesus, we can baptize you today if you need to be baptized, if you need to repent of your sins. Whatever it is that we can do to assist you, won't you please come as we stand and sing.